Have you ever really stopped to think about why we follow the rules? Why do we listen to some people but not others? Well, today we're going to dig into that huge question, and we're going to use the incredible framework from sociologist Max Weber to do it. Okay, so let's get right into it. The key here isn't just about raw power, it's about the kind of power that we willingly accept. And trust me, that's a really subtle but totally crucial difference that pretty much shapes our entire society. So, just for a second, I want you to think about your own life. Why do you stop at a red light, even if no one's around? Or why do you listen to your boss, or actually follow a doctor's advice? It's not always because someone's forcing you to, right? So, what's really going on there? Yeah, sure. Power can definitely look like this. Pure force, coercion, the threat of punishment. But that's really only one side of the coin. What about all those times we obey because we genuinely believe the person or the institution giving the orders has a right to do so? That, right there, is a completely different kind of power. And that brings us to the big idea for today, authority. So what is it? It's accepted power. It's the power that we, the people, agree to follow. This isn't about being forced into something. It's about seeing the commands as legitimate, as reasonable, maybe even as beneficial. The most important thing to remember is that authority is something we grant to others. So, how do we make sense of all this? Well, this is where the sociologist Max Weber comes in. He came up with this brilliant classic classification system that really breaks it all down for us. He gave us 3 super clear answers to explain why we accept authority. And here they are. Weber laid out what he called 3 pure types of authority: traditional, charismatic, and legal rational. Believe it or not, these 3 categories can help us understand pretty much every form of leadership you can think of, from ancient kings all the way to modern-day CEOs. All right, let's unpack Weber's first type. This one is all about looking to the past. It's the kind of authority that gets its power from simply saying, well, that's just the way it's always been done. So traditional authority is all wrapped up in history and custom. People obey because the social order has just been a certain way for a very, very long time. The legitimacy doesn't come from some law written in a book or a leader's brilliant personality, but just from that simple phrase, it has always been this way. A hereditary monarchy is like the perfect example of this, right? A queen doesn't have to hand in a resume to rule. Her authority is just inherited, legitimized by generations and generations of tradition. But you see this on a smaller scale too. Think about a family business where leadership is passed down from a parent to a child, sometimes no matter who's actually more qualified. The authority comes from that custom, that unwritten rule that says, this is just our way. But, this kind of system has some serious downsides. Because it's based on an established dominant order, it can be really resistant to change and sometimes even exploitative. And since it relies on customs instead of clear, rational laws, it can really lack fairness and consistency. So if traditional authority is all about the past, Weber's second type is rooted completely in the personality of one single incredible individual. This is about a leader who is so compelling, they literally create their own legitimacy. Weber called this charisma, and charismatic authority comes from a leader's just extraordinary personal qualities. It could be their heroism, their powerful way of speaking, or their sheer force of will that inspires people to follow them with this incredible devotion. It is all about the individual. And history is just full of these figures, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., whose moral vision moved millions, or someone like Napoleon, who totally captivated entire armies. But charisma isn't just a thing of the past. Think of a visionary tech founder like Steve Jobs. His force of personality and innovative ideas inspired this intense loyalty from both employees and customers. In every one of these cases, their authority didn't come from an office or a title, but from something personal and powerful inside them. Now, what's so fascinating about this type of authority is its biggest weakness. It is super unstable. It has no rules, no traditions to fall back on. It basically lives and dies with the leader. So what happens when that one single charismatic person is gone? The whole system can just fall apart. So what happens when the charismatic leader is gone, or the old traditions just don't hold up anymore? Well, that brings us to Weber's final type, and it's the one that really, truly dominates our modern world. In this case, authority isn't about history or personality. It's about the rules. It's not about who you are, but what position you hold. This is the authority of bureaucracy, of rules and laws. I mean, think about it. The power is in the office, not the person. We obey a police officer who's directing traffic, not because we know them personally, but because of the uniform and the position they hold. It's the reason a referee's call is final in a sports game, or why we follow procedures set by an HR department. The authority comes from a rational, legal system that we've all basically agreed to live by. Of course, this system is not perfect either. It can feel really impersonal and rigid. Bureaucracies, with their laser focus on rules and procedures, can really struggle with unique problems and often lack flexibility. I think we've all felt that frustration of dealing with a system that just can't bend, what Weber called the bureaucratic mentality. So we've got tradition, charisma, and the law. How do these three types of authority actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Let's try and put it all together. This table is a great way to see it all side by side. You can really see how traditional authority is based on history, charismatic authority is based on a dynamic personality, and legal rational authority is all about that bureaucratic office. From a monarchy to Mother Teresa to a modern parliament, it all fits neatly into Weber's framework. And here is Weber's big prediction. He saw the future as being absolutely dominated by this legal rational authority. He basically predicted a world that was becoming more organized, more by the book, and, well, more bureaucratic. And honestly, when you look at our world of corporations, legal systems, and complex governments, it's really hard to argue that he was wrong. So I'll leave you with this thought to chew on. Look around your own life, at your job, in your community, even on your social media feed. Where do you see these three types of authority at play? Which one do you run into most often? And maybe more importantly, which one do you think is the most powerful force shaping our world